Hi, Omair. Welcome to BizTalk. That's my great pleasure having you with me today. How are you?
Thanks, Max. I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh, good. Oh, good. So far, so good.
Yeah.
So let's talk a bit about yourself.
What can I say? I'm a Canadian in London. Spent years in finance, nearly about 15 years, and then had an itch to start a company. First, obviously, I did in finance, and then I've spent the last 3 years in biotechnology, and now I've launched a new venture in neuroscience. So
Biotech,
that's me. Yeah.
neuroscience. I mean, the jump is huge.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah. Um, I mean, the jump was inspired by just personal experience and history, which created the motivation of experiencing the problems in the system and firsthand. So I think in both of those jumps, I partnered up with some great scientists. Um, I've always had a passion for science, always understood it, and yeah. So to me, I took my own view into it, and I think while I was a portfolio manager, there's a lot of investments I'd look at, and you had to kind of visualize and understand what things were. So we're kind of pretty well trained in that. So yeah, my first project was it was a turnaround of a company. Yeah, it was a venture company that had gone on the rocks. And the program I rescued ended up then creating a proposal for COVID-19. I won a World Economic Forum nomination for that. And following that, I was constantly looking into the neurology of disorders, and my grandmother had Alzheimer's. So I ran into my co-founder in a project, and that's how it all came together. So each jump was something interesting.
That's very interesting. Life is very unpredictable anyway. You never know where to go.
Yeah. I think I closed my hedge fund, and on being I needed to be in Canada for 6 months, and during that time, the biotech was in Canada, so it made sense. And so I think someone wise told me once that luck is all about uh, preparation, meeting opportunity.
Yeah, it is.
So
It is, absolutely. This is how even myself, I call like be persistent. Just
yeah,
way for me is be lucky. So let's talk about your last venture.
um, my current venture or the last one?
This one.
This one. So I've launched Neurometry. Neurometry is we're based in London, but the research came out of Switzerland. My co-founder led that over the last 7 years at the university in an academic clinical research setting. Um, and I had been a gamer before, toyed around with games and their purpose on my own self. So the idea was to use gamification to um, essentially game the detection process so that when when neural degenerations happen, symptoms are near invisible, and that's where something you can pick up. And gaming interacts with users at a very micro level. So this is what Neurometry does. We're building games that at the moment are capable of detecting early signs of dementia. And we are building an entire network around it to address the main pain points of dementia and the economic cost that not just the individual, but family members and carers, they all sort of experience. So that's what our company mission is.
Using gaming to detect dementia, early stage dementia.
Yeah, so we're doing we're in preclinical state, so we're not doing the diagnoses. We're providing the data to the specialists, especially in memory clinics or GPs that can actually use it. And I mean, we're going to be set up as a business to business, and the idea is to find clusters of individuals that are above 50 where we can utilize our gameplay with them, and over time start to ascertain what the impairment level is. To give you a sense,
Yeah.
Neuroplasticity, which is brain's ability to learn, interact, and be flexible for all intent and purposes, starts to decline post 45 to 50. And so there's a natural aging process in there. And often dementia is missed because people assume, well, I'm getting old or I'm getting close to retirement. When in fact, it could just be a trivial standard deviation, but it's starting to show you a trend. And our aim is to be able to use that.
I had my granddad, and he had Parkinson, right? So we have been not capable, and doctors aware to be capable to diagnose the Parkinson when it was the right time. Okay, so it went from nothing to too much in such a short time.
Yes.
Diagnosis was completely failed, totally failed, and we were completely unprepared.
Mm-hmm.
Let me say, it's been a nightmare. It's been seriously a nightmare.
Yeah.
Absolutely, for my granddad, for my family as a whole. So, how can you detect if exactly we are talking about a disease, a mental disorder due to factors like Parkinson or whatever it is, or because the age? Is that easy?
No, it's not. It's the fact that within cognition, you have a cognitive decline that occurs with aging and your environment that you are within. Um, and and so to be able to account for that, as well as and understand what is natural and what is non-natural. So an analogy for that would be, if you're having joint pains, does that mean it's chronic arthritis, or is it just wear and tear if you've been, athletic and so on and so forth over time? So it's that observably is the biggest challenge. Now, Parkinson's, sorry to hear about your granddad, and it's neural degeneration that occurs that results. Parkinson's has a different, of course, call it trajectory versus dementia. Dementia, if it is diagnosed, or when it is diagnosed, it's generally too late, because the brain pathology, biochemistry starts to change much earlier on, and it's subtle and it gradually accumulates depending on. So dementia is obviously a condition of cognitive impairment. Now, two things have occurred in the last 10 years, which is, of course, we've understood it better, different types of dementia. And two, there's a stage that occurs prior to it called mild cognitive impairment, which has only been clinically accepted as a diagnosable condition from 2014. So that's where we reside. We try and look for micro symptoms, and it's not. Of course, it's there's a lot that goes into that.
Absolutely. I mean, the brain, it is the most beautiful thing we have. It's so complex.
Yeah.
Absolutely, just too complex for everyone. We try, but it's something like a black hole where you can put everything inside and you still don't have very little understanding. But how gaming, if you can give a more, not
Clear.
precise, because I don't think it's pretty easy to explain in few words, but how gaming can play in this role, I mean, detective.
Well, if you think about it, right, I think easier analogy would be a lot of research has been done in attention deficit and children, right? As they're growing up and using high frame rate games and, games that evolve and there's reward processes that are very quick. How does that change the permanent behavior or personality characteristic of the child? And that's a process when the brain is growing, right? So we've done the exact reverse, which is the brain is declining. And can we use it as a constructive mechanism? So how gaming, um, there's different processes. We're essentially relying on games are easy, right? It's a problem.
Yeah.
It's a problem. It's a search. It's a play. You can be creative depending on. So let's say it's tic-tac-toe. I can start with 1x or I can start with 2x's and a specific O. And then each one has different solutions. So depending on, if, for example, if you just wake up and you're trying to solve a problem versus when you've had your coffee, right? That's the idea.
Without a coffee, I can't even talk. Zero.
Yeah, for me it's tea, but I'm in England. But yeah, I agree. So all I mean is, what we plan to do is use the mobile games as a way of approaching different individuals, and our goal is to be universal and not create social class barriers to utilize new technologies. So that's our mission within it. In terms of technicalities, of course, as I said, within X amount of gameplay over a period of time, we start to get data significance around what each one is. We've got 2 prototype games now. They'll be done by end of the month, and we will start clinical trials next in about, I would say, January, February.
Great. I mean, you are B2B, right?
Yep.
And how exactly the model will work in terms of business, cash flow generation?
Yeah, so good question. The B2B side, of course, this is more of a transformational product. So it's been a lot of research. So let me explain in 2 ways. The economic cost of it right now is that on an annual basis, it's estimated 19 billion care hours are unpaid in the United States. This is as a virtue of the fact that, again, as you said, by the time you find it, it's too late. And then the acceleration is pretty bad.
Absolutely.
And it's dementia's effect on the person's capability of managing other conditions that most of us will develop over time. And you're not able to take care of any of this. So, so that's one cost. The second is, there's a new diagnosis in UK every 3 minutes, and that's a diagnosis. So, yeah. So with that said, you revert back to US, where they assume, or it's again estimated, 50% of Medicaid subscribers are presumed to have Alzheimer's disease, which is a type of dementia. And they don't know it, So and our position is that if you're developing something, of course, say 8 years ago, you start a patient. We detect it. You then pursue lifestyle changes, adaptions, and it could be meditation. Doesn't have to be reading encyclopedia and writing it,
Yeah.
right? Could be a lot of things, dietary changes, so on and so forth. You could have delayed your decline when the recent drug was approved, the first drug for Alzheimer's, right? Now, whether it's effective or not, different story, but there's a lot of clinical work that's being done. So the idea is to defer this cost. So how we plan to generate or be commercial out of it is, of course, provide the network into clinical platforms, which is obvious. But the second is care homes. And we are looking at, because that's where you get the highest concentration. Now, we're also talking to our first would-be client is a biotechnology company that's developing a drug and wants an assessment of what their supplements help with in neurocognition. And so we're able to do that for them. So yeah.
When using your gaming, you are providing data to these biotech companies, for example?
No. We're not. It's there. So they have, they use a pool of 500 people, out of which 50% usually is a placebo or control group. They want to create a third group where they use the application to manage, and therefore it gives them better guidance before they get to preclinical trials. So it would be utilized on individuals that are selected from the exact same sample that I mentioned, which is either through hospitals, assisted living, retirement homes. So.
And what about national, let's say NHS in UK or what else? Are you going to work with them, to partner with them?
Yeah, I mean, we all know how slow some of these things can be, which is why we've chosen to go down the care home route, which isn't necessarily fast, but given my hedge fund background, and so there's institutions that own properties like that as part of their income portfolio. So we're aiming to approach large ownership groups so that we can run pilot studies and expand it across their branches. So that's the idea.
I mean, detecting is clear. Can you cure some kind of, or slow? Like I don't want to use cure, but can you slow the process with your gaming system?
We hypothesize we can. I think you can generally, let's say you don't have anything, you can, through mental exercises, or even just recent research last week came out saying that if you retire after 65, your chances of cognition decline are much less. Why do you think that's the case? It's because your environment's demanding. My parents both are 64, 66, so right around that boundary, and they're both working, and each day that they go into work, they've got to solve different dynamic problems, right? As much as it's habitual, it's still new, so keeps them on their toes, right?
Keep training, it should be
so that's the purpose. Now anything we say in terms of anything we've hypothesized, we have to clinically test first before we can say that it is doable or not. But for now, we're sticking to early detection of the symptoms.
Did you start already with the clinical trial? And what's the stage?
We've done the usability, feasibility studies already. So that's been completed. We have the data that was there. In fact, we've included Parkinson's and Huntington's in that. So
I was reading on your website. That's why.
Yeah, and so we completed that. We are now raising capital, bridge round, in the immediate future to, as you can imagine, we combine a lot of different technologies.
Yes.
So you've got data science, you've got software, you've got gaming, you've got neurology, and all this comes through within biomedical engineering. So,
absolutely, you are lucky enough having your background in finance. We happy for sure. Detecting, data and forecasting. What was going to be your market? The first market where you're going to launch? Because when you finish, first of all, how long does it take for you to end the clinical trial, and what's going to be the first market?
So this is all very new to the regulators as well. So we're working with them on that. The good thing is, we can be in a non-clinical form and clinical form. And yeah, the trials will be likely about 6 months, I would say. But preparation for that, and we are in the middle of a pandemic. So, the lucky part for us is that it doesn't have to be purely in a clinical form as it would be for other mechanisms. But you will need access to check, say you do an MRI, for example, day 1, day 6 month, n equals, whatever, 6. And yeah, is it available? Is it not? Like, there's a lot of things, site selection, etc. So therefore, our route to market remains that I think we can run pilot studies with certain private homes and users as well. So launch in the 2 home countries we have are UK, Switzerland. Within our team, we have 8 countries and we have a small team. So between myself and my co-founder, we always joke around. It's Canada, UK, Switzerland, Pakistan, India, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's already a lot.
I mean, that's a big segment. Granted, we're not going to do that. I think first point of entry really is UK and likely Italy, which has the oldest population. But I think we're open to, we're looking for investors either from clinical background, care home background, or with interests within this aging sector. And if there's a country they're in, so my CTO advisors in Singapore. Now, if that helps me access Singapore, then we can remote in.
Can we talk about a little bit about your round?
Yeah.
How much you're raising, and do you have an idea? Any possible valuation?
Yeah, so we're doing a bridge round of 150K, and then we're doing larger seed raise of up to about 2 million sterling, and that's going to be hopefully in within 6 months. That's the idea, and then that's the plan. With certain non-dilutive fundings, that should be enough for us to be at Series A.
Okay, and when it comes to valuation, I don't like to talk about valuation because it's extremely personal in the sense. Valuation is always between company investors, but have you an idea, a range between?
Yeah. At the moment, the bridge round we decided to do it at a advanced subscription agreement, which is in US a SAFE. it's a it's kicking the can a little down the road, and the reason being because we've achieved a lot of milestones, but there's a few things remaining to final touch-ups back end. Believe it or not, we're in, I've been drawing characters as well. And, so art, that thing, the 2 million investors can then have a tangible sense of, where it is. So then we can discuss. And of course, then the early investors get a discount on that. Now, our main aim is to make sure that we deliver those technical milestones. Valuation it's all over the place, but like I said, we're sort of transformational in that sense. You've got within neuroscience tech, you've got, companies like Neuralink, which everyone's heard of. But then there's a lot of other companies on brain-computer interface.
It's the so-called, I think, healthcare, and inside healthcare, we can put everything, right? It's very complicated to evaluate because many times you are pre-revenue. It has so many milestones and trials to go through. So it's more about the market and how the market is trading than not the company, but sometimes the market as a whole helps.
Yeah.
Can we finish a very nice talk asking you why investor should invest in your company?
They should invest because the pain point we're hitting is universal in a way. Hits everybody. We, unlike other deep tech companies, organically combine science and commercial experience from two different angles. And three, we know what it feels like to be the patient as well as the clinician within our team. And so I made sure as we were developing the products to knock on doors that we are going to knock on when we are selling them, to understand what is the process from the first. I cycled by one and I was like, hey, I'm building a product that's meant for care homes. How can I want to understand how the environment is. So I just knocked on the door and the lady was shocked, but took my information. But the valuable insight I got from there is what the process of the sale is going to be. What is the client that is going to operate, the on-site control for the applications, right? How simple, how user-friendly do we need to make? Because we do have a lot of solutions right now. If you go to a university clinic, UCL or something, but it takes money, it takes patience, it takes location. So I think the preparation that we've done before accepting any outside capital has assured us that one, we'll make it. Two, when you do a trade in finance, you never do a trade with an objective value of a stock because, each one of us knows what's the value of an Amazon stock, right? Nobody knew until 2012.
You don't.
So all you always have is a stop loss and also an understanding of what to do with the cash after. So, we've got all those plans, strategies, risk strategies to ensure that, when I closed the investment firm, I had to return the capital back. Any losses and you feel it. So
I mean, it's not that different when you run a startup. In any way, you need to give the capital back one day. So what's your strategy, the exit? And we close with this.
yeah. I mean, hey, exit would be go public. I think there's opportunity within, there's been transactions within the sector recently, acquisitions. I think a lot of things are in their very new phase. And often it happens is that, large capital sometimes seeks the, the sexy management or idea or something that's alluring and maybe too complex and doesn't work out or is impractical. And then that company has enough capital to start acquiring assets. So I think for investors, my main goal is to be able to produce growth factors and hopefully not require too many funding rounds to make sure that growth is achieved and sustainable revenue, so that when we do go public, it's not about again continuing the burn rates, which on public capital only hammers your equity value, right? So I think the exit, hopefully, as I said, public or be acquired or acquire.
I do hope you can go public.
Yeah, thank you.
Omair, thank you so much for coming to BizTalk with me. It's been a very glad pleasure talking to you.
Cheers, Max. Thank you very much.
Take care.